What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Earl the Pearl, Anthony Antonelli, Mikey McNuggets coming at you here at 4 o'clock on the dot as advertised, as the NFL cuts have come to a conclusion. 4 o'clock was the deadline, and we are going to break down all the Browns roster moves and some other interesting moves from around the NFL. We're going to take a second or two to say thank you to everyone hopping in here. What's up, April? What's up, Eddie? How y'all doing today? And we will get our initial thoughts and reactions. But we're going to give out 2-3 minutes to let some people come in before we dive into the news of the day. But I got a question. I want to take you guys behind the scene, like behind the glass of the glass. Anthony, were you on time today?
No.
Earl?
Absolutely not.
No, we were not.
We talked on the show yesterday how, I was off one day and Earl and Anthony put on a great show. And the next day they both came in hella late. Today, coming off our highest viewed regular live show ever, were my two APs. Hella late, but they made it. I appreciate them. And Anthony, did he already drop out? Anthony, what's wrong? No, you ain't hiding now, brother. You ain't hiding now. Get your ass back in here. But no, just busting you guys' balls. Like I said, we'll give out 2-3 minutes for everyone to get in here.
I think the funny thing is,
we know we teed this up, but hey, it's been 2 hours since we left the office, give or take. We got this all set up. How y'all? It's a beautiful day out in Cleveland.
I think it's
nice.
I think it's funny how we had the balls to be late on cut down day. Like,
good point. Do we really need 3 APs?
Hold
Steve,
on.
we do. Steve, we actually do. That's not a joke. We have no fat to trim. We do need all 3 of y'all, or all 3 of us.
I'd like to refer to the record when in one of our meetings, Mike goes, "I only trust Anthony to make headlines." So go ahead.
Yeah, actually, we did do that last year. Y'all saw me and Earl try to make headlines ourselves. It was not good. Shout out to JJ, Mark Ross, Eddie, April, Justin, Evan for being in here already. We're gonna give out 2 more minutes, let people trickle in, but we can do a little teaser without getting into any specifics. Earl, just give me a 1 to 10. How pleased were you with AB's decisions on the 53-man roster? No specifics yet. We'll get to that, but
no specifics. Just
give me a general number.
General number. I'll give you about an 8.
8.
I'll give you about an 8.
Anthony,
I probably like an 8.5. I don't think anything really shocked me.
I'm gonna go 6.5. And I have one major qualm, and I'll get to that in a sec. But we're gonna go, like I said, at the 4-minute mark. We'll dive into specifics. So we're gonna pander for 1 more minute. Let some people get in here. What's up, Ian? What's up, Steven, Tony? Appreciate y'all hanging out with us on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. Steve Becker just chimed in. Steve's watching our faithful EP who watches all our stuff. We appreciate you too, Steve. So y'all ready with that? Is this enough of a leeway? We ready, Earl?
Let's do it.
We ready?
Let's do it.
Can I start?
Go for it.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that Mo Hurst should not be on this 53 initial man roster. Now, listen, here's the reason why he did not make the 53 and Jordan Elliott did. Jordan Elliott was owed $1.5 million in guaranteed money, whether he was on the roster or not. Andrew Berry is financially stringent. We know that. He's willing to spend money when needed, but he is not willing to spend money where it's not. That's why he's kept so many draft picks longer than I think we all can agree was the right choice. So they keep Elliott, they cut Hurst. There's a lot of rumors, speculation. We have no confirmed facts that there's a wink-wink deal that Hurst, because he's already occurred 4 years in the NFL, doesn't go to waivers, becomes a free agent, will then come back and sign with the Browns after they put either Jordan Kanasic, Isaiah Thomas, or Alex Wright on the IR, right? Well, here's the issue, Earl, and this is why I'm baffled. Yes or no, is defensive tackle a premium position?
Yes.
Did Mo Hurst play very well in the preseason this year?
Absolutely, he did.
Has Mo Hurst, when he's been healthy, been an extremely productive defensive tackle in the National Football League?
Yeah, 3 for 3.
Was Mo Hurst a top 2 draft pick in the last couple of years?
No.
I think it was 3 years ago. He was a top 2. Was he a top 2 pick, second round?
Okay, yeah.
I think it was second round. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my point is, there are a lot of teams in the NFL, and the Browns were in this position last year, that are desperate for help at the defensive tackle position. There is no guarantee that Mo Hurst will come back. Now, I'm inclined to believe that they don't just cut Hurst without some sort of notion that they want to bring him back, but there's no guarantee. The Giants, the Jets, the Dolphins, you can name any team, says, hey, Mo Hurst, our defensive tackle room is not very good. You played your ass off in the preseason. When you've been healthy, you have been very productive. I'm going to throw you some money. And see if you'll come here. And if that's the case, to keep Jordan Elliott over Mo Hurst for $1.5 million because you don't want to eat any dead cap, I think that's stupid, Earl. Personally, I think that is a very short-minded, short-sighted move when you have the most cap space in football. And I know they want to roll that over to next year for different reasons. You have Deshaun's contract. You have Myles Garrett's contract, Chubb, all those guys. But Mo Hurst is so much better of a football player today than Jordan Elliott is. And for $1.5 million to risk the chance of losing him, to me, that's not worth it.
It's funny because I go back to some comments from Kevin Stefanski, when he talked about Austin Watkins Jr., and we'll get to him in a few minutes. But I think Mary Kay Cabot asked him last week about, Watkins standing out and has he done enough in the games to make the team? And what he said to me was kind of interesting. He talked about that, the games is just a part of it. That what you do on the field when the lights is on is just a part of a small piece of basically the overall pie. And just like Watkins, Hurst damn sure passed the eye test every time that he was on the football field. He was making plays left and right. And so to me, when I seen that he did not make the initial 53-man roster, I immediately thought to myself, okay, well, what was happening in the film room? What was happening during training camp and on the practice field that was different from what we saw from him in a live game? So I'm with you. I have to go off of only what I know. And what I know is that every time he stepped on the football field in the preseason game, that he was dominant, that he made plays, that he was out there eating. And so a guy like that, regardless of a $1-point-something million dead cap number, should be on this team.
That's it, 1.5.
Yeah, and and I'll say this as well. I'm going to try to give Andrew Berry a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Because you lay out a very, very telling argument, but I'm going to say hopefully it was something outside of the $1.5 million in dead cap, and why he chose to make the decision that he made. I am absolutely shocked that Jordan Elliott made this team. I can't even lie to you.
And I'm going to read this super chat, then I'll toss it to you. This is from Halim. He said, the agents are involved in the communication before they make these moves. If they plan on bringing him back, there's no risk. Yes, the agents are involved in these. And yes, there could be a wink handshake agreement to bring him back. But who's to say? I'll use the Texans, for example, because they have a bunch of cap space and their defensive line isn't very good. They don't play a 4-3 like the Browns do. It's not a perfect fit, but for the sake of this, we'll use them as an example. If the Browns are going to bring him back for $4 million and Houston says, we got money to spend, we're not in dire need of rolling cap space over. We need a veteran leader, a guy who's been in the league for a while to be kind of the focal point of DeMeco Ryan's defense. Hey, Mo, we'll give you $8 million. Listen, he's going for the $8 million. He's not turning down $4 million to play for Cleveland. He wouldn't turn down $4 million to play for anybody. Like, there could be a wink agreement. Yes, but to say there's no risk, that's absurd. There is risk. I agree that there's probably been a conversation in place. They would love to bring him back. I would also love $2.5 million. I would also love a brand new car. I would love to be 6'5", Earl. We don't always get, just because you want something and you could agree. How many times have deals broken off? How many times have you heard, I go back to my favorite broken deal of all time is in the NBA when DeAndre Jordan was deciding if he was going to leave the Clippers. And then he locked himself in the room with the Mavs and Mark Cuban essentially kidnapped him. And then he went to another team because they offered him more money. Let's not pretend that money doesn't rule everything. And yes, I think the plan is to cut Hurst, bring him back after they put someone on the IR, but there's no guarantee. And for me, if it was save a guy I know can play, and unlike Watkins, Earl, and Ant, we've seen Mo Hurst play effectively at the highest level. Watkins, we've seen it in the preseason. We've seen it in the USFL. We haven't seen him after do it against starting defensive backs, starting secondary in the NFL. We've seen Mo Hurst be productive against starting offensive linemen. So for me, the $1.5 million difference is absolutely worth keeping Hurst over Jordan Elliott. But We'll see. And another super chat from Halim. And we'll get to Cade York. Yeah, they want to bring him back in the practice squad too. I assume if he clears waivers, he has the choice to come back. I'm not sure if Cade York would want to come back to Cleveland. Like, if you were Cade York, we'll get back to the other guys in a sec. Would you guys want to come back to Cleveland after the way and hand up? I know you have done the same thing.
Cool.
Like,
I'm cool. But I guess I want to lose. Before we even get to York, I know that was a super chat, but this one here, this kind of goes back to your point. Hurst will be back. Chill out. Geez. Well, Matthew, how can we chill out when there's no guarantees on that, right? How do we know that to be 100% certain? As Mikey alluded to, conversations could have been had behind closed doors. But once he's a free agent, he's a free agent. And if another team comes calling that's offering more money, a veteran who's had injury problems throughout his career is going to go get that bag, knowing that his days in the NFL can be numbered. And so we just reporting what we know. And it's like, this sounds more of like a guarantee that he will be back. Yeah, more than likely, but we don't know that to be fact. So ain't no need to chill until we know for a fact.
And if it was $10 million they were saving, sure. Like, I get it. The Browns just cleared $37 million in cap space. They have the most cap space in football. I understand why they did that. They're rolling it over next year to help deal with the Watson contract, the Garrett contract, all these restructures. I get the whole point of rolling over cap. But 1.5 is a drop in the. That's like me and you finding $10 on the sidewalk. Yeah, $10 is $10. I'm gonna go buy 2 slices of pizza. It's gonna go to good use. But let's not pretend $10 is the difference in you or I or anybody. Well, I take that back. $10 is a lot. That's a bad example. But you get what I'm saying. It's not a significant portion of whatever they're trying to make. Anthony, thoughts on Mo Hurst, Jordan Elliott? Surprised that they ended up going with Elliott, even though we kind of know why it was the money.
Yeah, I mean, it's cut day. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on this guy. Like, I'm going to be learning along with the chat from what you guys are telling me. It was one of my 2 biggest surprises, though. And I learned about the other surprise that we'll probably get to later in our wide receiver group, more from Bull this morning. So I'm here. I'm learning. And I was shocked, but I understand why with the money we had to keep who we had to keep.
Yeah, it comes down to money at the end of the day. And it's, I don't want to say a shame because all these decisions are based off money. Mm-hmm. If you could keep everybody, you'd keep everybody, but you have to fit a salary cap. You have to fit a 53-man roster. Jordan Elliott was guaranteed $1.5 million, whether he was on the team or not. They were paying him 1.5. By cutting Hurst, they owed him nothing. They could re-sign him for a guarantee and move on. Let me read the 16 players they waived in case anyone isn't sure. These are the moves that became official to finalize the Browns' initial 53-man roster. This will change by Friday when teams can actually pick up players. But the list of players they waived, there's 16. Lorenzo Burns, Jalen Darden, Demetric Felton, Hassan Hall, Mike Harley Jr., Sam Kamara, Jeremiah Martin, Tanner McAllister, Zaire Mitchell-Papton, Kellen Mond, Lonnie Phelps, Charlie Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, Tommy Togiai, Austin Watkins, and Cade York. They also terminated 4 contracts. These are guys who don't go through waivers. These just become straight free agents. Michael Dunn, who could be on the same path as Mo Hurst here on a wink, we'll cut you, bring you back deal. Tristan Hill, Mo Hurst, and John Kelly. And they also placed Michael Woods on the reserve non-football injury list, meaning he's not on the 53-man roster. They can't activate him without cutting someone else down the road. So a little bit of finagling you must do to get him on the roster. Out of those guys, Earl, where do you want to start? You want to start with Watkins?
Yeah, we can start with the offense and start with Watkins. I'm looking at that right now. To me, I didn't agree with the move of cutting Austin Watkins Jr. And let me say this before fans start going crazy in the chat. I understand his journey to the NFL. I understand the entire spectrum around him. But in my mind, this is where the politics in the NFL comes into play. And that's not always a good thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that David Bell has less than 25 receptions and less than 250 yards receiving in his rookie season. Correct. And Watkins did that in the preseason. So to me, I think these are 2 guys that kind of like, wash out each other. I think Bell made this team simply because he was a draft pick last year, simply because he was a 3rd-round pick last year. But to me, that's not enough. When I look at Watkins, I look at a guy who more often than not showed to be dependable when he got his opportunities in the preseason. And I get it. Wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, 9 times out of 10 won't play on his team unless somebody gets hurt. But my issue with that becomes, let's say we do lose a couple guys, right? Let's say a couple guys in the wide receiver room do go down. Then you want to be able to bring up the most quality backup wide receiver that you have. And I really believe that if they were both on the field at the same time with Deshaun Watson throwing them the football, that Watkins will outperform Bill. So when I kind of like try to strip away all the fancy words, when I try to strip away all the nuances and the politics surrounding it, my eyes tell me that Watkins is a better football player than what Bell is. And so that's a move that, to me, it just screams politics. I think the only reason why he's on this team is because he was a third-round pick last year, and they didn't want to give up on him after one season. Now, granted, again, we're talking about two guys that 9 times out of 10 won't see the field unless an injury occurs. But if an injury do occur, I feel more comfortable with Watkins out there based on what I've seen from him in just one preseason game versus I do David Bell, what I've seen from him last year and this preseason.
Yeah, Watkins was the other one that really surprised me, leading the NFL in receiving yards for the whole preseason, playing the way he did. He passed any eye test I think most of us would have given him. But as we talked about it this morning before the show, it's all just one piece of the puzzle. And you got to wonder what was going on off the field too for him not to make this team, because just looking at him, I don't know what more he could have done to make the team. And we'll never know probably those little details in the film room like we were talking about with the last guys we were talking about. So it's shocking, but I see him playing in the NFL, probably on another team. I don't think he's going to end up signing on our practice squad. And I do think Bell's here just because of his pick. He didn't impress me at all last year.
All right, I'm gonna stand up for Bell here real quick, only because we had such a small sample size of him last year. He was a little banged up, but this dude in a conference with Ohio State won best receiver in the conference. Like, his college numbers were silly playing at Purdue with a bunch of nobodies. I wasn't blown away by Bell last year. I don't think he got a lot of opportunities, but let's not pretend that he was getting 10 targets a game to kind of showcase himself. I think he had 24 catches. I know he didn't score a touchdown. And I'm not telling you I think he's going to be great, but I think it's hard to compare what Watkins did in this preseason versus what Bell did in the regular season, because it's two completely different beasts. And I'm not at practice. Like, we wanted to go. Did you guys go to a practice this year? Or did you end up making it out there?
No, we wanted to, but I'm sorry, bro. I got to disagree with you. Listen, just because he won that award don't mean a damn thing. Like, yeah, he won that award for best receiver in the Big Ten, but me and you and anybody else with a Blues clue can honestly look out there and say that there is no way in hell that he outperformed Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, or even Jackson Smith and Jigba, who didn't even qualify to win that award. So I'm not looking at that as, okay, yeah, you got some hardware, but how many players on this team do got some hardware and ain't did nothing? Harrison Bryant won the award for the best tight end, and he ain't did nothing. And that April says he caught 63% of his targets. Well, he only had 32 targets. That's like the tweet that we seen earlier today with the Dustin Hopkins. He was 9 to 10 for 90%, but he only kicked 10 attempts. So, like, I just don't see a guy who is a quality NFL wide receiver. And trust me, when I make statements like this, I hope to be wrong, because if he's good, that means that he's contributing to the Cleveland Browns' overall success. But I just don't see it.
My point isn't like just because he was good in college means he'll be good in the pros. My point is, it's not like he has never proven he can play at the highest level. Now, the highest level being the NFL, we haven't seen it yet. But I don't think he's had enough of a sample size to say he's a complete bust. We saw it against high-level competition in college. And in the preseason, he scored a touchdown, but I wasn't that impressed in the preseason. Like, and Earl, just yes or no, and yes or no. When you watch the preseason, you just look at the guy tape to tape from what you saw in preseason against the same competition. Watkins was better than Bell, right? Like, eye test, it wasn't particularly close. Yeah. Which tells me it's something in practice that we're not privy to, especially behind closed doors when the media who does go out there isn't seeing it. Bell must be doing something right, because it was just based on the eye test from the preseason and the highlights they tweet out in camp. Then there's no reason that Watkins doesn't make this roster over Bell, other than the fact just because he was a draft pick, Bell is owed money, Watkins is not. There must be something going on behind the scenes, and that's what I go back to with the college stats and the production. He must either know the offense inside out, like the back of his hand, he either must be killing the second team in practice and we just don't get a chance to see it. He's got dirt on Stefanski, which I don't believe. Or 4, he's just better than the opportunities we've seen him get. Because granted, this receiver was pretty good. He's not going to beat out Amari Cooper to play. He's not going to beat out Elijah Moore. Could he be better than DPJ down the road? Maybe. And I'm not willing to say that's impossible. But there's something about Bell that we're not seeing that makes me believe Cleveland, Stefanski, and Watson are all in on this guy. Because you're right. Based on what we saw in the preseason, it's not comparable. But we're just seeing a little tiny sliver of the whole puzzle that they're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And it's hard to argue that because the same argument can be made for everybody that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
We see them
except with sorry to cut you off, but except with Mo Hurst, because we've seen Mo Hurst do it against NFL guys. That's why that whole thing pisses me off even more.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna take a flyer on a guy in the preseason, I promise I'll give you back. I apologize for taking the mic twice. If you're gonna cut a guy for a guy like Jordan Elliott's played in the NFL for 2 years now, Earl. How many plays can you remember in 2? Is this his third year or fourth year?
I think this is his third year.
How many plays can you remember Jordan Elliott making in his professional career?
Mo
Hurst was a very, very, very productive NFL defensive tackle for 2 straight years before getting hurt. Like that's why this baffles me. You know what you have in Hurst. It's health. That's the question mark. Can he stay healthy? You can't predict anyone's going to stay healthy. To me, that's why it's crazy. Back to your point, I apologize. But that's what pisses me off about the Hurst thing. You know what you had. Had.
I mean, I just don't look at David Bell. And again, there's nothing that I seen this year and his opportunities in preseason that kind of stood out. Now, he did make the most of some opportunities that he got. But, as far as who jumped out at me or who jumped out at all of us, I think it's evident it was Watkins. But again, we're talking about 2 guys who, probably won't play at all. And my only argument would be that if something was to happen to the guys that's ahead of him, would I be more comfortable with David Bell or bigger body wide receiver in Austin Watkins Jr.? And for me personally, it was Watkins Jr.'s. But I mean, honestly, hopefully it doesn't even matter at all. So it's one of those things to where I just don't see it. And I know somebody just said, who was it? He said, just admit it, he's not flashy. I'm not one of those dudes. I really don't give a damn
Earl's
about
not
him.
A flashy dude. Earl just
I don't give a damn about him being flashy or not. And that's something that, he don't know about me. But I don't care about that. Can you go out there and can you play football? And can you make the most of your opportunities when you're given them? And last year, I didn't think he made the most of the opportunities that was given to him. Granted, he didn't get many at all, but that's just how I feel about the situation overall. So, and it's not like we had, let's be honest, all of us here, it's not like we looked at the Browns wide receiver room and we was overly confident in that unit.
It's solid.
It's solid at best, because at the end of the day, if something still was to happen to Amari Cooper, we still in trouble.
Still screwed. Let me ask you guys this. We'll move on to different position. Best case scenario, David Bell. What's his ceiling? What's the best case scenario for David Bell? And Earl,
probably Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'd assume right around there. I don't imagine he's going to be. We barely saw him last year. We didn't see him really much at all in the preseason. I think it's hard to tell. I'd love to go out to a practice and actually see what he's doing for one of the public ones next year if he's still on the team. But that's right now, for what I know and what I've seen, I'd put him right about there. I don't think he's going to be a lights out receiver at any time soon.
Could he be a starting wide receiver 3? I guess I'll ask Earl. Could he be a starting wide receiver 3 if he reaches his peak?
Not for the Browns. I mean, so
no, just in general. Not
just
like
in general.
It's
hard. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. To me, I just see a guy who needs some work on his game. He was a 3rd round pick, and to me, when you're drafted in the 3rd round, I think you're either a starter in the NFL or you're the first rotational dude. And this is a dude he just looked slow when it came to game speed. It seemed like to me, like he didn't make the most of his opportunities. And I get it. A lot of people are talking about, well, he got open and this, that, and the third. I mean, Kevin Stefanski schemes everybody open. I think we all can agree that Kevin Stefanski does a great job scheming everyone open. So the fact that he was open on some plays, that don't surprise me at all. Every pass catcher on this team can make the same argument. I just don't look at this dude as somebody that I can look at and say, okay, he can be a contributing factor. Because will he be a wide receiver 3 overall in the NFL? Maybe, but I just don't see it being on this team. I think we know that person is probably going to end up being Tillman. when it's all said and done. So
and what do you
that's
think?
just that.
What do you think Watkins' ceiling is if he reaches his quote unquote like peak? See what
I think around this. I mean, maybe what, a wide receiver 5 if he was to make a roster, a rotational guy. Even both of these dudes are rotational guys,
Yeah.
right? They're not somebody that I'm looking at and say, okay, I need David Bell to ball out today for the Browns to go win.
Like neither guy's getting drafted in fantasy. Like
Yeah.
no matter how we split it, neither guy's getting drafted in fantasy.
Yeah, it ain't that to me. And like I get it, you know what I mean? And like I said, Kevin Stefanski does a great job with his offensive scheme to make sure guys are running open. And so the fact that he was open, that don't surprise me at all. At all.
Yeah. Now Watkins, listen, I do you think he makes it through waivers? Because I'm pretty convinced he gets picked up. Like I know me and Bo disagreed. I think he gets picked up by somebody. There are a couple teams out there, unlike the Browns, who may not have the most spectacular wide receiver room. They have depth. Like whether it was David Bell or Watkins, if that's your 6th receiver, you got some depth. There are some other teams who have 2 or 3 guys. You're like, yeah, they could play, and it drops off pretty damn quickly. Do you guys expect Watkins to clear waivers? Or do you think he's on a team come Friday?
I can see it.
I think that this is the team that I got in mind. Remember, what's his name? Justin Ross?
Yeah.
Was a standout at Clemson.
Yeah, he's on the Chiefs now.
He went undrafted, was picked up by the Chiefs, and a year later, the dude looks like he's ready to take that next step. A team like that, I can see going to get Austin Watkins Jr. A team that has showed since moving on from Tyreek Hill that they're willing to get some young guys in here, some guys that's still developing, but they trust their quarterback so much that they can bring these guys in, get them into their system, and then see what happens going down the line. So I don't think he's going to clear waivers. If he does clear waivers and then he ends up on the Browns practice squad,
best case
love
scenario.
lost. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario.
And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd have a specific team picked out for him, but I would be shocked if he didn't get picked up off of waivers after what we saw, unless there is something off the field that, only the general managers know about, and then he ends up on our practice squad.
Yeah, I think my guess would be he gets picked up. I think he was too impressive in the preseason to land on a practice squad, but you never know with these kind of things. If he's going to get picked up, I think a couple options. Indianapolis, Chicago, Carolina, the Giants all have relatively weak wide receiver room. So those are 2 places I think we could see him land. And one thing I love, Earl, and I like the Restream setup because while I'm looking at you, I could also see the chat on the side, and it's going fast. I can't see everything. The chat sees 50-50 split on this one, for the record.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And you have I clicked on the wrong one, but you have a supporter here, Earl and Josh Hessler. Bell's preseason stats: 7 receptions, 50 yards. Watkins 16, 257, 2 touchdowns. He was clearly better. I don't think anyone's disagreeing in the preseason games and the action this year that David Bell was even remotely on the same level as Austin Watkins. But as we say and continue to say, what we see in the preseason is a minute slice of the puzzle. And a lot of times what happens in practice is much more impactful to guys making and or not making a roster than what happens.
Man, I love UCSS fans. I love Browns fans, man. Like Bell got his supporters in here. So, shout out to y'all who want to see David Bell succeed. I ain't mad at y'all at all for wanting to see it. Like I said, my opinion don't have to be concrete and it don't have to be right. When I make statements like this, I hope to be wrong, right? Yeah. I hope David Bell goes out there and shut me the hell up. I hope he watches this and say, you know what, I'm going to go out here and ball out.
Hey, and we know some people on the Browns watch this.
Yeah, I had a certain wide receiver's father tweet at me after something I said. So, yeah. That's that. I think that, and before you go real quick, I'll say this because I'm seeing a lot of comments about, the speed part of it. And I should have brought this up on the show yesterday when we were talking about, guys that can take the top off of defense. As you both know, I have a very close friend that played wide receiver in the NFL for 6 years. And I remember we would have conversations about, well, this dude run a 4.3, this dude run a 4.4, and he will always tell me, Pearl, your 40-yard dash versus your speed when you running routes are 2 different things, right? And so like game speed and actual on-field speed is it's a huge difference from that 40-yard dash that we fall in love with. You can be a guy, say like Amari Cooper, who's not considered one of the fastest guys in the NFL, but because he's probably a top 4 route runner, he looks 10 times faster than what he is. And to me, when I look at David Bell, no, he's not a fast dude. He's not the biggest dude in the world, but I don't think he runs routes all that great. I do think he has great hands. I just don't think he's a great route runner. Yeah. And so to me, route running is something that I think will make up for you not being big in stature or not being necessarily the fastest dude in the world. But that's just my opinion with it.
Don't disagree. We're going to get some viewer questions in a sec, but I want to go over some of the other roster moves first. They kept 7 linebackers, guys. 7 linebackers, which I think is a surprise. We went through last week and looked at the 7 options to cut, and we all said 1 or 2 guys we thought would be on the chopping block, and we disagreed on who we thought. But to keep all 7, that includes Matthew Adams, Diabate, Tony Fields, Kanasic, JOK, Taki, and Anthony Walker Jr. Kanasic is out. He'll be placed on the IR on Friday, meaning that's going to open a spot to bring somebody back. I'll just start. I didn't think they were keeping 7, and I don't hate the move. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I actually like the decision. I think Diabate played so well in the preseason in that position. There are so many question marks there with the health of Walker Jr., the health of Taki, the health of Kanasic, the inexperience and inconsistency of JOK playing in a new system, that if you have a guy you think has a chance to legitimately help this defense this year, you got to keep him. I thought that was a guy they had to keep on the roster, and Diabate earned his way on the field with not just stellar play in the preseason, but you look at any camp report from Jake Trotter, Mary Kay, any of the people that are out there on a daily basis reporting what happened, what they can see in the media portion. And remember, the media portion is only 20% of the actual practice. They see a very small glimpse of what really goes on. Diabate was a guy day in and day out making plays on defense and special teams, which is a big reason why I believe he made his team. Are you guys in agreement or disagree that keeping 7 was the right or wrong move for Andrew Berry?
I don't know if I say disagree or agree if it was the right or wrong move. I guess for me, I can phrase it as I understand why they did. I'm looking at the list right now. You got Anthony Walker Jr., who is the veteran, who was a captain last year, who's the locker room leader, the leader on the football field. You definitely bring him back. Diabate, as we talked about, as a undrafted rookie, has taken advantage of every opportunity that's been given to him on defense and on special teams. So I didn't see them letting him go. Tony Fields, who was balling until he got hurt last year, I can understand that one. Jordan Kanasic probably end up on IR, which brings the room down to 6. You got Jock, who of course is Jock, and he's looked pretty good from what we've seen him.
Yeah.
Sione Taki is just like Tony Fields to me, a guy that was balling out before he got hurt. And then you got the guy that we signed in free agency, Matthew Adams, who made this team because the special teams unit was a disaster, and he's a special team specialist. So when you look at the overall group, there's not one guy that jumps out at you that can be considered a standout. But if you look at the group overall as just a total unit, I think it's a solid group. And I feel more comfortable about the linebackers now than I did last year, just from seeing the small sample size I saw under Jim Short's tutelage in the preseason.
Yeah, I agree. After all the injuries last year, I think keeping as many of them as we possibly could was a good move. I think it was Tyvis that said Schwartz's scheme loves to rotate in and out as many players as he can, keep guys fresh. You need guys to rotate, and if you can't pick one to get rid of, keep them all.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly a take there, Ant. And I agree in a sense.
Yeah.
It's defensive linemen more than linebackers. Linebackers are more situational, but Diabate, like, there are certain players that just make plays, and not just tackles, but I'm saying there's guys who just have a knack of forcing turnovers, creating chaos, wreaking havoc in the backfield, always kind of being in the right spot at the right time. We'll talk about Ronni Hickman in a sec because I think he falls in that category too. But you look at the linebackers they had, Walker Jr., and let's assume health here, okay? We're all on the same page. We're going to assume health.
Okay.
Walker Jr. is solid, right? He's going to make tackles. He's going to be the leader of the defense, but he's not a turnover-creating machine, never has been in his career. You look at a guy like Taki, flies to the football. Once again, a solid tackler, but not a guy you can kind of rely on to create turnovers. I think he only has 2 forced fumbles. Between the two of them, they have 2 forced fumbles in the last 3 seasons. JOK has the ability to be a turnover forcing machine, but he's been way too inconsistent to put that kind of pressure on him yet. JOK, just stay healthy and make tackles. You're good. I don't think they have anybody in the second level of their defense who's a guy you can count on to create a turnover. And yes, before you say, well, if they force 3 fumbles in a season, that's good. Yeah, I get that. It's not a game-by-game thing, but if this dude has a knack for forcing turnovers, which he did at Utah, and then he showed it in the preseason, and all the reports say he was doing it in practice as well, I don't think you can let that guy hit the wires because there's no way he's making it to another team, or no way that the team's not picking him up before he makes it back to the practice squad. He was, in my opinion, the most valuable of the undrafted free agents to try to put on the wires because there was a 0.0% chance he was making it back to the practice squad. I thought he was the one that had to be kept, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree, more with that. This dude, again, 43 was all over the place. It seemed like every time we turned on the TV, 43 was around the ball, 43 was in the backfield, 43 was just out there making plays. And when you get a guy like that, it's hard to let those type of guys just walk, right? Because one, undrafted free agent rookies come a dime a dozen. And when you can get your hands on somebody that can be a contributor to your team, you can't afford to roll a dice as such as you're saying with Mo Hurst. You got to keep a guy like that on this roster and continue to develop him. And I know for me, I will be definitely paying attention to his rookie season very closely to see how the linebackers coach and how Jim Schwartz himself works with this young man and continue to develop his skills. The Browns have not had a impact linebacker in God knows how long.
DQ.
And Mike, just to preference this,
DQ.
I remember, I mean, outside of DQ, right? Outside of DQ. But if you think about it, we've known from the 80s that the Cleveland Browns used to have some pretty nasty linebackers. And since we've came back in 99, I can think of Jameer Miller and I can think of DeQuell Jackson. And DeQuell Jackson ain't played in Cleveland in over 10 years. So to get a guy who looks like to be a freak of nature and a playmaker, I got to give the Browns some kudos for finding this dude and being the smarts to keeping this dude right here on this roster.
Do you think that of all the Browns rookies this year, drafted or undrafted, Diabate has the best chance to start and make like an immediate week 1 impact? Because I do.
I do too. And it's not crazy to think that. But again, I feel like politics can sometimes get in the way. And I think that's where the old school mind of Jim Schwartz being in the building, I think that can help balance that stuff out a little bit. Again, this dude is a dog. Like he's a dog. And I just feel like for me that when you consider a bona fide like stud at linebacker, it's been Jameer Miller in 99 and it's been DeQuell Jackson during this 10-year here. Yeah, we didn't have some solid guys or some guys that was average, but this dude got an opportunity to be special, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did start right away. I know we talk a lot about the defensive line being guys that rotate a lot, but it'll be interesting to see, how he used these linebackers. I'm not sure if we're going to see 3 linebackers on the field at one time. I think we might see, honestly, 2 as kind of like, the typical amount of linebackers that's out there. But who those guys would be, that's a good question. Anthony Walker is a guy that's very knowledgeable on the defense, a dude that's a veteran leader. But I don't know if you all agree or not. The biggest playmakers or the guys that seem like they have the most athleticism and might be able to make the most plays is Jock and Diabate. That's what it seems like.
Diabate's JOK but bigger. At least from a stylistic standpoint. JOK was a 2nd-round pick. Diabate went undrafted. So there may be a skill set gap, at least when they were coming out, based on the draft projections. But what I saw from Diabate, whether that's going against the first team, second team, third team, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 10th team's offense, I don't give a shit. The dude can play football. He was in the right spot at the right time, regardless of who's on the field. And to me, that is impressive. We want to end this. We're not ending yet, but we want to get some viewer questions in here at the end. So if you have any questions for myself, Anthony, and/or Earl, drop them in the chat, and Anthony will be monitoring them and putting them in our private chat to answer at the back end of this. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, hit that like button. We appreciate you guys joining us today for a little behind the glass immediate reaction here. They kept 5 safeties. Bell and Hickman make the roster. Hickman was the guy I think was the toughest decision for Andrew Berry to keep and/or cut. I liked what I saw from him in preseason. A 5th safety rarely plays minus injuries, but then again, you look at the durability of the guys in that secondary, and I could see why they wanted to keep an extra one just to be safe. Yes, Ronni Hickman did make the final 53-man roster. Do you like the move, Earl? I mean, he gave us no reason to think he shouldn't be on the 53-man roster.
Listen, OH.
IO.
I love it, and I think he earned it. 3 interceptions in 4 preseason games. Kudos to him. He went out there and he did what he needed to do to earn a spot on his roster. Will he play a lot his rookie year? Probably not, unless it's special teams or somebody gets hurt. But again, he did the things necessary to become a member of this team. When you go out there and you have 3 interceptions, 2 in the same game, then you've put a lot out there on tape that impresses the head coach and impresses the general manager. He didn't even have that many career interceptions in college. And so, I heard, I can't remember who, I was listening to Juan Thornhill talk about him, and he says that Hickman is one of those dudes that just always seems to be wherever the football is, that he's one of those guys that the football seems to just find him. And you've seen that in the opportunities that he was given. Now, of course, he got some things that he needs to clean up. I thought Tyvus did a great job breaking down the film and showing some of his weaknesses in his areas that he can grow. But I think the Browns got a young playmaker at safety and a guy that they can have on this team and develop. And then maybe next season or the season after that, you might see him starting to take on a more significant role on this team.
I'm so sorry. I was reading chat.
Okay. Yeah, keep it up. If you see any questions, I see you drop.
Yeah, no, I'm grabbing your guys' questions as fast as I can. I totally zoned out there. I apologize.
No, you're all good. I'm going to read the names of guys cut again, Earl, just one more time for anyone who tuned in late. But the Browns released 21 players today, and those names include Lorenzo Burns, Jalen Darden, Demetric Felton, Hassan Hall, Mike Harley Jr., Sam Kamara, Jeremiah Martin, Tanner McAllister, Zaire Mitchell-Payton, Kellen Mond, Lonnie Phelps. I thought Lonnie Phelps had a pretty damn good preseason. I think he'll get a chance on some team's practice squad. Charlie Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, Tommy Togiai, Austin Watkins Jr., and Cade York, Michael Dunn, Tristan Hill, Mo Hurst, and John Kelly Jr. were terminated, and Michael Woods was placed on the non-football injury reserve list. Let's talk about Cade York real quick here, Earl. We mentioned it earlier. We got away from it. There's a chance, and I know Stefanski said today they'd love to have York back on the practice squad if he clears waivers. If I'm Cade York, I want nothing to do with Cleveland anymore. I want nothing to and it's no disrespect to the city. You guys know I have fallen in love with Cleveland. But after what we as media and a fan base has kind of put him through the last couple of weeks, I'm not sure why he'd want to come back here instead of getting a fresh start somewhere else.
I think it's in his best interest to just move on, right? So I'm all about reconciliation. I'm all about rekindling the old flames. So if it's some love there, I'm all about doing whatever you can to fix a broken situation. But that's in love and that's in sports. I mean, not in sports, right? That's in love and life, not in sports. And when I look at this situation, the way because I was one of the main guys that kind of got on his ass in the media.
Rightfully so, too. Rightfully so.
And then we know how our fans can be here in Cleveland. I just think that it's better for him to move forward, to go get a fresh start and, have a successful career. The one thing that Kevin Stefanski did say the other day, I 100% agree about, he's a very talented kicker. Yeah. And just because it didn't work the first time around for him doesn't necessarily mean it won't work the second time around. So, a new city, a new team, fresh gear, the whole nine, and that'll be better for him. But I don't see how he would want to come back here and be on the Browns practice squad after being a 4th-round pick, a starting kicker on this team, and then to kind of lose your job, and then you got to sit there every day during the weekend practice and watch Dustin Hopkins do what you were drafted to do. Yeah. I just don't think that's ideal at all. So, good luck to him in his future moving forward. But I thought that the Browns did the right thing. I don't necessarily think that they got the best kicker that they could have gotten out there, but it is what it is. I listened to Mike Lombardi earlier today, and he said something. I know we was heavy on Folk, and the Titans traded for Folk. The thing is, Folk can't kick off. And so if the Browns would have traded for Folk, you still would have had a problem because your punter can't kick off, and then he's not a kicker that's good at kickoffs. So you go get a guy like Dustin Hopkins that, I said it earlier, the stats, career percentage 84.8, all that's great. Just go make your damn kicks. Yep. And we don't have to keep building segments to talk about kickers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Make your damn kicks. The thing is, kickers and offensive linemen, everybody wants the love and the attention and the credit they deserve for being good at what they do. Whether you're a football player, an accountant, a garbage man, doesn't matter. You want the recognition and the credit when you do well. 99 out of 100 times, if we're mentioning a kicker or offensive lineman's name, it's because they gone messed up. They did something they shouldn't have done. A critical holding penalty. Like Joel Bitonio on Sundays might be the best player on the field. We're ecstatic if we don't mention Joel Bitonio's name once, right? Like if Joel Bitonio's name does not get mentioned on the broadcast once, that means he played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
We don't really talk about Cade York or the kicker if they miss kicks. Now, granted, he kicks a game winner against Carolina. We'll give him his flowers. Don't get me wrong. But 9 out of 10 times, we talk about the kicker a lot more when something's going wrong than it is when it's going right. And I think Cade York, and I don't know Cade, I'm just speculating. I think he let a little bit of the Carolina hangover linger into this season. And once he struggled, and Jason put it really eloquent on the show today, the man has never struggled in his life as far as kicking goes. His confidence as a kicker had never been shaken. And when he started missing kicks at the end of last season, he got a little bit in his head. He came back this preseason and was not able to do what he had done for the last 20 years of his life successfully. I guess 15, he's not that old. 20 is a little exaggeration. And at some point, the Browns are just all in this year, and they can't afford to lose games on a kicker. So Cade York, if he makes it back through waivers, he has a chance potentially to re-sign with the Browns. I'm sure the Browns would love for him to come back here, but I'm with you, Earl. If I'm Cade, I do not want anything to do with Cleveland. I need a fresh start, a complete fresh start. No, you're kind of talking to your ex-girlfriend, and you guys are just friends, and you're just flirting, and it's nothing serious, but you know how it's going to end. Someone's going to get hurt again. Your new girl is going to get pissed off. She's going to get pissed off somehow. It never ends well. Clean break, separate, go your separate ways, and hopefully it works out in the long run for both. Because Dustin Hopkins is solid. He ain't great,
but he's solid.
Perfectly solid. Yeah,
he's
and
solid.
You take perfectly solid over inconsistent but potentially great every day of the week when it comes to a kicker.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think Bull and Jason had alluded to something earlier, and I was waiting on you to call them out because you called me out on it, right? They said that Mike Prefer ruined Cade York, that they had it on good word, that he messed him up, that he got in his head, right? Now, 2 days ago, I was on set, and I asked the question of how much responsibility
I know where you're going with this.
Should go to Bubba Ventrone for Cade York looking the way that he looks. And, a couple people said bad takes, bad job out of me, a special teams coordinator, doesn't have anything to do with the kicker kicking. Well, how is it that Bubba Ventrone doesn't absorb any of the blame for his issues? But now I'm hearing that Mike Prefer absolutely ruined this dude. So that don't make sense to me.
So I think, and once again, I didn't hear this. This is what G told us and what Jason told us. What I think by saying that is Prefer completely ruined his confidence. Not the mechanics, but Prefer, and I'm not in the room. This is, total speculation. Prefer either got on him, didn't know how to connect with him, didn't know how to push his buttons in the right way, and just kind of ruined his confidence and made Cade York do something he hadn't done since he started kicking, which is second guess himself, question his mechanics, question everything he's worked on to reach this point of his athletic career. Am I doing it right? And part of a coach's job is to instill your guys with the confidence to go out and do what they're supposed to do. And once again, I wasn't there. I've never spoken to Mike Prefer. I have no idea what really happened, but I think that's what they were insinuating more than Prefer tried to mess with his mechanics, mess with his kicks. And Ventrone, I don't think he's been around Cade York long enough to have any real impact on that. To me, it seems like Cade York was damaged goods as he got here, missing missing 8. He went 8 for 8 to start the season, finished the season 24-32. So he went 16 of 24 after those first 8 kicks. His confidence was already shaky. Ventrone unable to completely revamp his confidence to the level it needed to be a successful kicker. So I think that's what they meant. I could be wrong. I'm putting words in their mouth.
Mike, y'all know where I'm about to go with this, right?
So, I mean, I'm putting words in their mouth. I didn't say it.
So this is this, and again, I can't project me on everybody else, man. But suck it up, dude. Listen, life happens to all of us every single day, and you all know me pretty well to know, man. Sometimes you just got to get your ass right back up, and you got to keep going. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that Prefer did get in his head, right? Let's say that Prefer did mess him up. That was last year. Turn the page. New season, new day, new opportunity to be great. Whatever motivational quote, motivational line you want to use, right? He was given that. He was given that new opportunity. He was given that new day. You got a brand new special teams coordinator that I'm pretty sure sat down and had a conversation with you to restore confidence in you. Then you had no kicking competition at all. So again, whatever happened last year with his confidence being rocked, being shaken, or him being able to question what he's done his whole life, yeah, it might very well have happened, but so what? Because in 2023, you got a fresh start with a brand new special teams coordinator. You had no kicking competition, and you had all offseason to put those demons to bed and come back prepared and focused. It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get up. So to me, I really wasn't trying to hear that excuse of Prefer messed him up. I'm not here for it.
And I think too,
I'm with you.
That's why he's going to leave. He'll go to another team. I don't think his second chance is going to matter. And I had hope for him until that kick where he went down with the injury. When he kicked that, first of all, him getting hit had nothing to do with the missed kick. He had his toe was pointed out to his right shoulder like he was kicking it like a soccer pass. When your muscle memory is that bad because your confidence is so bad, as someone who had to work through a lot of issues trying to kick, when I played soccer, I did kickoffs and stuff as the goalkeeper. That form is so natural that once you get too much into your head with it, it's so hard to break it back. And that last kick in that game, I don't think he's gonna get it back. He could go to another team. He could have another opportunity. If he can't work it out in his own head to correct that form, there's no hope for him. He's going to be shanking things left and right the whole time.
Yeah, and last thing on York, and then we'll move on to some viewer questions. If you have any viewer questions, we'll answer them in 1 sec. We'll do that here last as we wrap up. Or what you said is right. Just not everyone's built like you. Like plain and simple. You're a tough son of a, you're my guy. You're a tough son of a bitch. You've been through a lot in the year I've known you. More than any one person should go through, and you keep coming in every day to work like nothing ever happens, and that is seriously a remarkable quality you have. But not everybody's like that.
And that's why I said I wasn't trying to
anomaly. So
that's why I said I wasn't trying to project because
you'd be a great kicker, Earl. You would be a phenomenal. You could miss 30 in a row. Earl be like, you know what, MF, I'm about to make this 31st, and not everyone has that inherent confidence.
Listen, I'm not trying to get ran out my own city. That's all I need is to miss a kick late in December. And it's a game that can cost us something. And all of a sudden, Earl of Pearl is no longer a fan favorite. Earl of Pearl can't even live in this city comfortably. Can you imagine me trying to go to Slimans on a Monday after I missed the kick on a Sunday? And they looking at me all sideways, man. No, I'm cool.
You're worried about the wrong
I like
thing,
it right here behind the glass where I can deal with the criticism that comes with this. But I don't want no part of that kicking smoke. Yeah, none whatsoever.
No, see, you got to walk out there like the guy in the replacements with the cigarette in his mouth, putting it out on the field and just drilling it from 60 yards out. When it comes to kicking, you can't have any doubts. Zero. There has to be none.
All right, we got some viewer questions. First, I see a bunch in the chat. We did this to start. You could go back and see the full conversation we had. Why did they cut Mo Hurst? Well, once again, I think we all disagree with the decision. The reality is Jordan Elliott was owed $1.5 million. Mo Hurst had no guaranteed money. There's a alleged wink agreement that they'll bring back Mo Hurst once they put guys on IR on Friday. But until then, there is no guarantee. And if there's no guarantee, that means Mo Hurst is free to sign elsewhere. I hope he's back in Cleveland. I think he earned a roster spot, especially a 53-man initial spot. But Andrew Berry plays the money game, and that is why Mo Hurst did not make the initial cut. Shoot, Earl, what's up?
Real quick, I know we going through this. So a quote from Marquise Goodwin.
Shoot.
This is Marquise Goodwin on the optimism for week 1. Quote, I expect to be out there, but it's really up to the staff and the trainers. You know, we talked yesterday about.
That kills me, Earl. I hate that quote so much because that means he has no idea. That means, I hate that.
But here's another one on his readiness to play the game. I'm in shape. I'm in game shape. I would have to play in some games, so we'll see when I play in the game. So who knows? We can take that for what it was. From what I understand, he did practice today.
He did. He was
And
out
I
there.
was
Deshaun
shocked.
Watson,
I was not
Elijah Moore
expecting
were
that.
not out there. It was a non-contact day, so that definitely helps. But I wish he would either say, I'm not ready week 1 or I am ready. Don't tell me it's up to the doctors because doctors err on the side of caution every time, especially with something as potentially, as threatening as blood clots can be. So you guys ready to do some viewer questions?
Except for Any Given Sunday.
Yes.
I was just watching Any Given
point.
Sunday the other day. That's the only doctor who don't give a damn about your health. So.
Very good point. All right, first one. Earl, you can answer this first. Do you see another quarterback or running back coming to the Browns roster?
Quarterback, no. I think the quarterback room is set as what it is. I think the Browns heavily believe in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and I think that he's going to develop under AVP and Deshaun Watson this year and for years to come. I'm worried about running back too, right? I think Nick Chubb is going to get the most usage that he's had in his entire career. I think this year he will actually be a 3-down back, but injuries in the NFL is real. And not only that, if the Browns are preparing to make a deep playoff run, then you just can't run him into the ground. I alluded to this the other day. They were high on Jerome Ford. They saw more out of Jerome Ford than we saw. We saw a couple kick returns. We saw a touchdown in preseason last year. We didn't really see anything that made us go, ooh, that's running back too. The fact that he has a soft tissue injury right now that he sustained early on in camp and has kept him out to this point, and clearly I don't think he's going to be ready for week 1, that's going to linger all season. Soft tissue injuries, hamstring injuries, stuff like that. It's no quick fix to that. That's something that he's going to deal with all year. Pierre Strong, 10 carries in his rookie season last year. I'm real skeptical on guys going from year 1 to year 2 in the NFL when they got film on you. To me, I think that's like your real prove-it year. So I would love to see the Browns go get another quality running back, somebody that can actually spell Nick Chubb and maybe have some success. I don't know much about Pierre Strong to say that I'm comfortable with him in that. I don't really. John Kelly is what he is, but the Jerome Ford hamstring injury, it shows cause for pause. So I would definitely consider bringing in a running back too.
Here's what you need to know. And I'm going to let you read these questions and you set us up moving forward. Yeah. But here's what you know about the backup running back situation. You may like Jerome Ford. You may like Pierre Strong. They have a combined 18 carries in the NFL. God forbid Nick Chubb goes down. You're relying on 2 guys who have proven absolutely nothing on the NFL level to be the focal point of your running offense. Now, listen, running backs come into the league as rookies and perform better than any other position in football historically. Look at the last couple of years. McCaffrey comes in, instant success. Zeke, Saquon, these guys, and those are high draft picks, but there's a lot of other examples of guys who come in as running backs and perform. But to tell me you have confidence in 2 guys who have a combined 18 carries to carry the load, yeah, I'm not buying it. There are plenty of quality veteran backs on the market. Kenyon Drake's a guy that I know Bull's been clamoring for the last few days. I wouldn't mind seeing him in here. There's a couple other names that make sense. The Giants just cut James Robinson. He could be a cheap guy. Dearness Johnson. I'm not against bringing him back, but I would be shocked if the Browns go into week 1 without a 4th running back on the roster. And real quick, I see someone in the chat. K-Dude said, well, Kevin Stefanski said they're going to bring in another quarterback this year. I don't think they will. And just so everyone out there knows, Kevin Stefanski's a liar. He's a liar.
Big liar.
Don't ever listen to what a coach or GM says and take it as fact. Their job is to lie to us. Their job is to not give away valuable information that would compromise the building of their team. Just because he says something does not mean it's even remotely true. I'm not saying Kevin Stefanski's a liar in real life. I'm just saying when he speaks to the media in terms of roster building, game plans, that means nothing. You want 2 examples? Last week ago, Last week, he said Cade York was our week 1 kicker. That's not going to change. Now, material things changed. They cut him, but he lied to us because he knew he wasn't confident. You want a more real example? Look at the Golden State Warriors GM. His first press conference, someone asked him point blank, hey, do you see Jordan Poole being a building block in the future? And he goes, Jordan Poole is going to be here for a long time. We love what he brings to the table. We signed him to a big contract because we believe in his talent. He was traded the next day for a second-round pick and nothing.
Back to Stefanski, just what, last week? I remember Jason said it on the show. He's doing his press conference. Josh Dobbs is our quarterback too.
Oh, yeah.
3 hours later, Josh Dobbs traded to the Arizona Cardinals.
If it's Barry, Stefanski, DePodesta, Tomlin, Hart, like you name it, just don't believe them. Like seriously, just because they say something, don't believe them.
Old man Dritz, Earl is the normal Browns fan who was so used to us losing, overreacts to preseason games. Babe played more with the first team than Watkins did. I don't think Watkins played a snap with the first team. Old man Dritz, man, I know you probably a day late, dollar short, but I alluded to that yesterday and today that Watkins didn't get any first team snaps. Also alluded to the fact that Bill did play with the first team, and Bill actually did play last year in the regular season. So, not your normal Browns fan, my man.
You guys ready for your next question?
Next questions? Yeah, set us up here.
Yeah, all right. So Evan,
pretty quick.
Evan419 wants to know, guys, between Tito, Bickerstaff, and Stefanski, this time next year, who all will still be employed, and if not, who's gone? Or will they all still be employed? If they're not,
let you go first.
Who's gone? Go for it, Mike.
I think Tito's going to retire. I don't like it, but I think he's going to retire. So I would say Tito's gone, and I do think this time next year, both Stefanski and JB Bickerstaff are coaches of their respective teams in Cleveland. I don't think Bickerstaff is the right long-term answer, but I think the Cavs are going to be pretty good this year with all the talent they have, the evolution of Evan Mobley in the second year together of both Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I do think JB Bickerstaff will be the head coach of the Cavs, and I think the Browns make the playoffs this year. If they make the playoffs, Stefanski ain't going nowhere. So one new coach in Cleveland next season. That's my prediction.
I think Tito retires. Big bold prediction. Brett Boone takes over as the Guardians' new skipper. I think that Kevin Stefanski is here, and I wanted JB Bickerstaff gone this year. If he doesn't do what he has to do to get the team past the first round of the playoffs, ain't no doubt about it, he'll be gone next year. So I would say 2 new coaches in Cleveland, with Kevin Stefanski being the only survivor.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with both of those. All right, you guys ready for your next one?
Shoot.
Yeah.
Sayin wants to know, do you guys think Cleveland will make another trade? I'm assuming they're referring here to the Cleveland Browns based on the context.
Yeah, I think there's probably another trade in the works. They kept 7 linebackers. They have 11 DBs. Those aren't outrageous numbers, but it gives you a little flexibility to kind of finagle if there's a running back or a third quarter. I don't think they necessarily need a third quarterback, but a third quarterback they may be interested in. They could finagle it around. Andrew Berry always seems to have a trade up his sleeve, so I'm gonna say yes. But here, the reality situation is we're talking about the 5th or 6th receiver, or 6th or 7th, the 5th or 4th safety, and the 6th or 7th linebacker. These are good problems to have, guys. That means your roster is really damn good. If the guys were complaining about getting cut, probably wouldn't even suit up on Sundays anyway. So this is a good problem to have. I'm going to say yes just because I know Andrew Berry, but I don't think there's a position of need per se that they have a great asset to trade and get something of equal value back.
I'm going to say no, not right now, but I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how the season is going one way or another, if they made a trade before the trade deadline. I don't foresee them making any more trades right now as they enter the season. But if the Browns are balling out and then they look to be serious Super Bowl contenders, and then you see a team that is bottoming out and they got a player that can help you, I can see them going to make a move like that then. Or for whatever reason, the bottom just falls out with us and they say, okay, enough with this experiment, and starting to try to get some more capital somewhere. But I don't see them making a trade right now. I can see them making a move before the trade deadline.
All right, and what's next?
All right, guys. Freddie B wants to know, who was wide receiver 3 last year behind Cooper and DPJ? They genuinely forgot, and I couldn't think of the answer, and I don't think anybody in the chat even answered it.
Well, does Njoku technically count?
I guess Njoku would count as the third option, yeah.
Their third leading receiver last year was David Bell, for the record.
Well, there you go.
He had 214 yards. It was terrible. Terrible.
Oh, all right. So that answers that. Kid Wilson, 33. Is Michael Anthony Hall McNugget's dad? And I had to Google who that
Who
was.
is that?
He is an American actor, I believe. I want to say he plays Michael Myers, but I'm looking at his IMDb page right now, and
What's
I'm
his
not
name?
100%.
Michael Anthony Hall?
Yes. I'm not seeing a resemblance here personally.
But
He's known for
my dad's name is Chris.
Dark Knight, Foxcatcher, War Machine, and Live by Night, according to IMDb. So,
Hey, if he got money and wants to share it, I'll be his fake son. You want to put me in the will, Michael Hall Jr.? I'll be.
none of us are above being adopted by rich people. That is for sure.
I'm all in.
All right. Last question here, guys. We'll end it on this. Stephen Webb, DPJ stat predictions from all three of us. I'm going to say 500 to 600 yards now that Elijah Moore's on the team. He'll be the third leading receiver. 3 touchdowns, maybe 4. I don't know how many he had last year off the top of my head.
He had 3 last year.
I'm going to go.
Maybe 2.
I'm going to go 512 yards, 3 touchdowns. Average yards per reception is probably like 16-3.
I'm going lower. I think they have so many different options in the receiving game that I'm actually going below the over-under on almost all these. I'm going to say like 430 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that's it's not a knock on DP. I think he could play, but I think Cooper, Moore, and DPJ are all in that 700 to 950, 1,000 range. And you look at I'm just saying last year, the Browns had 3 guys. That's it with over 500 yards. 3. Their next highest total after Njoku, DPJ, and Cooper was Nick Chubb with 240. Like, it's easy to say, hey, these guys are going to have numbers because they're good, but there's only one football, and there's only so many completions to go around. So I think we're over-inflating.
Chubb had 240 receiving yards?
Last year. He was 4th on the team.
Sheesh.
Oy.
So, it's not it's just the reality. Unless you're going with the G. Bush method that he's going to throw for, 6,300 yards, and yeah, they could all have 500-600. But it's a lot of yards and not a lot of – because, here's the thing. If DPJ has 500 yards too on top of Moore and Njoku and Cooper, that means Nick Chubb's getting like 4 carries a game. So you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to find the balance here. I think at the end of the day, DPJ is a good player. He's going to get paid in the offseason. Like, he's going to get a legitimate contract and have generational wealth for the rest of his life. I give him like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns.
I mean, that's not bad. The 5 touchdowns will be a career high.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's going to be good. I just think the numbers he put up last year, there's a 4% chance it's repeatable based on the totality of this passing attack. I just don't know where it's going to come from. You know what I mean? I just don't know how many targets are going around. So,
Evan said he drafting David Bill. Listen, this is what David Bill should do.
You got to accept the invite, Earl. Evan, wait. You're the last one we're waiting on. You're the last one. All right,
cool. Because I can't lose this point.
Whoa, wait, hold on.
End of April, right? I think David Bill should definitely hire you all to be his agent and his PR rep, because I'm serious and I'm not even being funny. Like, you all, man, I love anybody who can stand their ground and make an argument for somebody that they believe in. But I believe in you two more than I believe in him. And so he should hire y'all. Go get paid, man. Go get paid.
Are you guys joining the Chats Fantasy League?
Yeah, I am.
What the hell?
I am.
I got to do a better job of checking my emails, man.
Yeah.
I don't know where
I didn't get an invite, so
blame Evan 419 set it up. So blame Evan.
No, that's fine. It's whatever.
Evan, can we add one more? Can we do a guest, an extra guest, or I'll give Anthony my team, either one.
Oh, no. You don't have to give me your team. I was just
listen, I want you to Anthony deserves just as much shine as myself or Earl, even though he's not out on the panel sometimes. He did direct, and he's going to direct again coming up soon. But Anthony deserves just as much credit for any of the stuff we do here as anyone else. So,
can I take it a step further?
If that's what I got to do to give Anthony some shine, Anthony.
Start complimenting me on air, guys. I don't know how to handle it.
Wait, let me give him. Let me take it a step further than that. I don't think Anthony has his skill set just like we all do, but I think that he's the link to me and Mike that really make this thing go. When it comes to graphics, when it comes to just the different nuances of production behind the scenes, he do things that I don't know how to do, and that's just what it is, man. Like, his expertise and creating graphics and a production of things, and now seeing him turn into a director Anthony, like, it's just crazy. So I think that we all bring something to the table in our own unique way to make this overall thing go. You know, I said this when Jim Brown passed away. Jim Brown is famous for saying that in order to have success, you need every part moving in the same direction, but only you can make your contribution to the overall goal. And so, like, Ant might not get a lot of the, you know, out front mainstream love and publicity, but this dude is truly the link that makes us go. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, and to be fair, I never wanted to be on air. Like, I applied to the job as a production job, so don't think that they keep me hidden in the back closet as a punishment or anything. This is enough for me once a week. I appreciate you guys, and I love working on this show. I have a blast every time I come into work.
When he's on time. All right,
When I'm on time.
That's it for Behind the Glass.
See y'all later. I don't live 3 minutes from the office like Mike does.
I'll be in at 7:30 in the morning.
Mike be out here jogging to work while he talking about me.
Hey,
Mike be running to work. Like,
hey, listen, this is for the people still in the chat. If they're not there by 8 tomorrow, I will send out a video and a snap and a tweet for every minute they're not on time tomorrow. Put it that way.
Freddie is right. He said me and Mike be too busy running our mouth. Somebody got to push the damn buttons.
Fact. Hey,
right.
Appreciate y'all tuning in. We will have the full recap tomorrow with some reaction from the guys. Tyvis in the house tomorrow. Gene Smith joining us at 12:30 before his final season at OSU. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. We appreciate y'all. For the Behind the Glass crew, Anthony, Earl, myself, peace.